When I bought Barefoot Contessa from Diana Estrada in 1978, she was famous for her chocolate cheesecake. I looked through my old files and dug out the recipe. I'm gonna make it for her for lunch. I think she'll be really surprised. So the first thing I wanna do is make the crust. I need 10 graham crackers. I'm just gonna break them up into the food processor. This is just a classic graham cracker crust with a little bit of cinnamon added to it. Just process them. You want them really finely ground. Okay, teaspoon of cinnamon. Cinnamon and chocolate is a great combination. And some melted butter, about 5 tablespoons. Just gonna pour it right into the food processor. Just give it a blitz. Put it into a 9-inch springform pan. So I'm just press this right into the pan. I'm gonna bake at 350 degrees for 12 minutes. In the meantime, I'm gonna make the filling. Perfect. Can't make chocolate cheesecake without chocolate. So I'm gonna do 5 ounces of bittersweet chocolate. Just gonna melt it. Best way to melt chocolate is to just chop it up in small pieces. You don't want to overheat it, otherwise it'll taste bitter and sort of burnt. So just shave it like this. When I melt chocolate, I actually melt it a little under melted because the heat just continues to melt the chocolate. So into a double boiler, it's basically a dish over a pan of simmering water, not boiling. And then to give it more flavor, and this is interesting because it must have been Diana's original idea to add coffee to chocolate. Really makes a difference. So it's a tablespoon of instant espresso powder. I'm just gonna let that hang out there. You know, when I first bought Barefoot Contessa, I remember this cake so vividly because it was incredibly expensive that we used to sell it by the inch. I don't know why. I think it was $40. It's sort of like from 1978, it would be like a cake being $150 now. We closed the door one night. There was nothing left in the store except this one cake, and somebody knocked on the door and said, I need something for dessert, I need something chocolate. And I said, all I have is this one cake. It's incredibly expensive. It's $40. I was really embarrassed. And they said, we'll take it. And I thought, I like this business. This works for me. So this is just melted now. And I think the crust is all ready. Perfect, you can smell the cinnamon. Okay, now, next thing I need for the filling is 1 3/4 pounds of cream cheese. It has to be at room temperature. That's 8. It's a big cake. 1 cup of sugar. 1/4 cup of cornstarch. Teaspoon of good vanilla extract. 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. And just mix that together. I'm just gonna whip this on medium-high speed until it's light and fluffy. Okay, next are the eggs, 3 eggs. Oh, this is perfect, it's nice and light. So now I'm gonna add the eggs one at a time. If the cream cheese isn't room temperature, it'll never incorporate the eggs. Next thing is a 1/2 cup of sour cream. And now for the cool chocolate. You want to make sure the chocolate is completely cool. Otherwise you'll scramble the eggs in the cake. That's not pretty. So just on very low speed. This is such a decadent dessert. I think maybe I'll give Diana what's left over to take home. That's it. So just like most cheesecakes, this cake bakes in 2 parts. First part is 350 degrees for an hour. And then I'm going to open the oven door and let it cool in the oven for an hour and a half. That really prevents it from cracking, so it cools very slowly. This is about as decadent as it gets. Just smooth it out. And as if this isn't decadent enough, I'm gonna make some warm chocolate ganache and drizzle it over to the cake. It's gonna be so good. And next, I'm gonna make Diana's classic carrot salad. I'm chopping up 1/4 pound of bittersweet chocolate. I've got a double boiler that I made with a glass bowl and simmering water. So put the chocolate right in. Okay, 1/4 cup of heavy cream. And just heat those together just until the chocolate melts. Ganache is great for icing chocolate cakes, but it's also terrific if you want to drizzle it on a dessert. If you haven't, drizzle it on the plate, but for this, I'm just going to drizzle it on the top of the chocolate cheesecake. Here's the cake. Doesn't that look great? I'm just going to take a spoon and just drizzle it on. Drizzle it right across. Well, I would say dessert is done. And now I'm going to start on the main course.
Banana bread flavored with espresso and some chocolate, and we're gonna make some butter with cinnamon and some more espresso. Unsalted butter, confectioner's sugar, a little bit of cinnamon, and instant espresso. You wanna use room temperature butter here so it's easy to actually mix all these ingredients together. Let's get to our espresso chocolate chip banana bread. 5 tablespoons of brown butter, about a tablespoon of instant espresso. So we're just gonna let the espresso powder dissolve. So I'm gonna start with the dry ingredients, all-purpose flour, and then a little bit of baking soda, some salt, and I'm gonna whisk this very well. So those are our dry ingredients. 4 bananas that are over-ripened. Just gonna mash this up a little bit. So a 1/2 cup of sugar, brown sugar, and then we're gonna pour our brown butter with our espresso right over it. I'm gonna whisk this all together. All right, we need 1 egg. Okay, we're gonna mix our dry into our wet ingredients, and our batter's basically finished. We need to add 1 more ingredient. Some semi-sweet chocolate, just chopped up, folded in. The batter's done, and I'm just gonna brush the inside of our loaf pan with some butter. All right, 350 degrees for 45 minutes. Okay, we're gonna let that bake. All right, banana bread. You wanna let it cool for 15 or 20 minutes, and then it should just come out. Please come out. Yes, excellent. You slice this up. You wanna let it cool down a little bit. Oh yeah, look at that. Put some of this butter on top of it. Just out of sight. Tastes so good.
I've got 12 tablespoons of unsalted butter, room temperature, and 2 cups of sugar, and I've beaten it until it's really light and fluffy. And now I'm gonna add a tablespoon of good vanilla. And I'm gonna turn it down to low when I mix these in. And 3 extra large eggs at room temperature. And I just put them in one at a time until they mix in. Okay, next for the coffee and chocolate mixture. So I'm gonna start with hot tap water. 2/3 of a cup of cocoa powder. You want really good cocoa powder. Next is a teaspoon of instant espresso powder. It's very strong, but it'll be good with the chocolate. Okay, and I'm gonna whisk this together. You'll see it just dissolves in the water. The coffee and the chocolate. And then I'm gonna add 2/3 of a cup of half and half. Just think how good that's gonna be in the cake. Okay, so that's the chocolate mixture. Next, the dry mixture. What I did was I sifted together 1 3/4 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. And that's all done. So, I'm gonna show you how I put them in. On low speed, alternately in thirds, starting and ending with the flour. Just put it in slowly, so it's mixed in. Okay, that's some flour. Next is the chocolate mixture, chocolate and coffee. Make sure each one's blended in before you start the next one. Okay, a little more flour. This smells amazing. It's not even in the oven yet. Very slowly, just make sure it's really well mixed in. And you want to make sure the bottom is well mixed in. Okay, ready to go into the pan. So I've got a 9 by 13-inch pan. I buttered it, put parchment paper down, and then buttered and floured the whole thing. So there's no point in making a cake if you can't get it out of the pan. Okay. and just smooth out the top. Now I'm going to bake it, and then I'm going to cool it. I'll put the cake in a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes. Next, it's about cooling. I'll leave the cake in the pan until it's completely cooled. Then I'll flip it out onto my hand, carefully remove the parchment paper, and place it on a serving board. So the mocha frosting couldn't be easier. I put 12 ounces of chopped bittersweet chocolate into a bowl, along with 3 tablespoons of diced unsalted butter and 2 teaspoons of instant espresso powder to enhance the chocolate flavor. Then I poured over 1 1/4 cups of simmering heavy cream, stirred it occasionally until the chocolate melted. Then I added 1 tablespoon of coffee liqueur, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, stirred the frosting until it was smooth, covered it with plastic wrap, and refrigerated it for only 30 minutes. It's really like ganache. If you whip ganache or chilled ganache, it ends up like frosting, just like this. That's it. Okay, I'm just going to pour this right on the cake, nice and cold, and then just swirl it on. I'm just going to frost the top. I like when you can see the cake and the frosting. 12 pieces, and I'll show you how I cut it. That's a dessert. Everybody will remember. Doesn't that look fabulous?
Tiramisu. I've been whipping some just plain whipped cream, and I'm adding some sugar and a little splash of vanilla. Eek.
Tiramisu.
Tiramisu. That's funny. And I'm gonna go ahead and add the mascarpone cheese. So when I'm making a regular big pan of tiramisu, I will fold the mascarpone into the whipped cream mixture, but this is a little bit more of sort of a quick and dirty version of tiramisu. Mauricio, do you like tiramisu?
I like it.
Do you love it? Yes, the answer is the only.
Mauricio's not a big dessert person.
I know, I don't know. I just don't understand this, but we have time to bring you around. So I've got the cream mixture all ready, and I'm gonna start building one of the mini tiramisu. But first, I have a little dish of coffee right here.
Oh, I thought you were holding the coffee.
Dark rum.
Oh my.
Now, usually with tiramisu, it's Marsala wine. Oh gosh, that smells so good right now. It's been a while since I've had some of that. And then let me get a little spoon. And that's all you need for sort of the coffee component, just coffee and rum.
Note.
Yes, so let me roll up my sleeves here. Lady fingers, store-bought, little crisp cookies. They're sold in like the gourmet foods aisle or the fine cookie aisle. And basically what you want to do is drop the lady finger, completely submerge it in the coffee and rum mixture, and then just drop it in the bottom of the jar. This is a teeny tiny pint mason jar. Or is it a half pint? It might be a half pint.
For sure.
Okay, and then grab some of the cream mixture, and it's a little lumpy from the mascarpone, but I actually love it that way. That just excites me. Okay, and then I've got a little chocolate bar, semi-sweet chocolate. You can do dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and Mauricio's like, chocolate, whoop-de-doo. Grate on a nice layer, and then you repeat the process. So dunk the ladyfinger.
Zonk it.
Ladyfingers are light and crisp, and they basically absorb whatever it is you're, doing. I get sort of distracted. Oh gosh. Okay, and then more chocolate. See where I'm going with this?
Layers.
You like tiramisu.
I do.
If you like tiramisu, you like coffee.
I don't like.
Ooh.
I don't love it though.
I want you to become a coffee
I like
drinker.
the cream part. I don't like the coffee wafer part.
Yes, you do.
You will. You will.
Yes, you do.
You should try dunking it in like vanilla or something. That'd be yum.
Well, you can make the coffee mixture as sweet. You can add like brown sugar to sweeten it up. And then finish it. Are you yawning, Stuart?
I'm sorry.
You need some tiramisu.
I do.
And then top it with cream. And then instead of chocolate on top, I'm gonna get a little sweetened cocoa.
Great work.
Look at this.
Wow.
How good does that look? Look at those little lady fingers. Okay, I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the second jar. Tiramisu for two. How good is, I want you to come look. Now, the longer these sit in the fridge, the more those lady fingers soften and the more everything just becomes a tiramisu miracle.
I'm making my cookie butter coffee cones, which are big mounds of ice cream drenched in melted chocolate and rolled in crunchy speculoos cookies. I can't wait to eat these. To start, I'm gonna melt my chocolate. I've got some semi-sweet chocolate chips here, and I'm gonna melt them in a double boiler. So I want 2 cups of chocolate, and I'm also gonna melt it with a 1/4 cup of coconut oil, which is gonna give it a nicer, smoother texture. And I'm using refined here because I don't want the coconutty flavor, but if you do want the coconutty flavor, use unrefined. And I'll stir this until it's smooth and melted. This chocolate is smooth and glossy and melted. I'll get it off of the heat. I've got my sugar cones and my pretty little holsters that I made with some glasses and some of my spare sprinkles that were lying around. But you could also use rice or dried beans or just a sturdy glass. And these will help the cones stay upright while I'm assembling. And it's a pretty serving presentation, if I do say so myself. The best bite at the end of a sundae cone is when you get to the bottom and you're kind of sad that you're almost done with it, but then you realize that it's filled with chocolate. So that is an important part of this recipe. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of chocolate to the bottom of each of these cones. And I just love the way that chocolate firms up and it's snappy chocolate covered in that crunchy cone. This is definitely one of the more delightful bites in this world. Okay, so then the rest of this chocolate is gonna be used to dunk the cones once I've got the ice cream on. Before adding ice cream, I'm gonna spread the inside of the cone with cookie butter, which is this delightful cinnamony spread inspired by those speculoos cookies that you get on airplanes. Here I go. I'm just gonna use my small offset spatula and add a thick layer of spread all around the inside of the cone. This is so satisfying and fun. It is taking all of my power not to eat this cookie butter right now. But it's gonna be so good with the ice cream. I've got my coffee ice cream, which I've softened in the fridge to make it easier to work with. And I'll just use my offset spatula to fill up these little guys. Okay, so I have the ice cream almost filled to the top. And now I'm gonna add another layer of cookie butter. And now I'm gonna add 1 big round scoop on top. Just like that. And now I'll continue filling these and then I'll stick them in the freezer to firm up. These are good and frozen and my chocolate is still melty, but it's not hot. I don't want it to be hot and melt my ice cream. So I'll grab a cone and I'll dunk it in chocolate. Oh yeah, that's so pretty. And then before it hardens, I'm going to get it into the cookies. I smashed up some store-bought speculoos cookies for a cinnamony crunch. Just like that. And now I'll do the same thing with my sprinkles. How could you not be so happy looking at this? And I'll just finish these off with cookies and sprinkles. Okay, they're dressed in their costumes and ready for their warm-up into my mouth. That snappy chocolate shell and those crisp cinnamony cookies are a perfect pair.
This cake is based on that classic Icebox cake that has like chocolate wafers and whipped cream. I think we can do better than that. So I'm going to start with heavy cream and make a Mocha whipped cream, and we're going to layer it with chocolate chip cookies. How good does that sound? So I've got 2 cups of cold heavy cream, and then I'm going to add mascarpone, which is going to give it lots of body. So I need 12 ounces of mascarpone. It's kind of like an Italian cream cheese. So each of these is 8 ounces. I'm going to put them right in. It's like rich and delicious, and it's going to stabilize the whipped cream. So 1.5 of these is 12 ounces. Put that right in. Great. Okay, and then you gotta make it a little sweet, right? So we've got half a cup of sugar, a quarter of a cup of Kahlua, which is coffee liqueur. This makes it a really grown-up icebox cake. Next thing is cocoa powder. It's unsweetened cocoa powder. This isn't cocoa, like the mix. This is the real deal. 2 tablespoons. 1. This is really good cocoa powder. 2. Next is espresso powder. I've already added coffee liqueur, but I'm gonna add espresso powder and just give it a little more flavor. So this isn't espresso grinds. This is instant espresso powder. 1 teaspoon and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So all those layers of flavor are gonna be great. Vanilla, coffee, chocolate. Okay, now this is the key. You wanna turn it on really slowly, otherwise you're gonna be wearing it. Just turn on very slowly, get it started until it's all mixed, and then I'm gonna whip it like whipped cream. I actually got the idea of this recipe from a friend who's a caterer. I said, what's the easiest dessert that you make for your customers that they love? And he said, icebox cake. And I thought, okay, I tried it. I thought it was okay, but I didn't think it was great. I thought, I think I can make that even better. Okay, then just turn it up a little bit, slowly, until it's whipped cream. It's kind of become a classic Barefoot Contessa recipe. And I love it because you make it one day, you put it in the refrigerator for a couple of hours or even overnight, and you just serve it the next day. No cooking, so easy. Okay, it's done. Wait till you see what this looks like. It's so good. How decadent does that look? Okay, so I've got the Mocha whipped cream. That's all ready. I'm gonna clear the decks a little bit so I can work here. I'm the messiest cook you know. Okay, so this is how you assemble the whole thing. So I've got a springform pan, it's 8 inches, and it has to be really high, like 2.5 to 3 inches high, because you want this to be tall. And you want it a springform so you can eventually take the sides off without having to take the cake out. Okay, first layer, chocolate chip cookies. And just put them right in the bottom. And actually you want to break them to fill in the little spaces. They're all going to get smushed with the cream, so it doesn't matter that they've been broken. You just want to sort of fill the bottom of the pan. I'm using my friend Kathleen King's cookies. They're called Tate's cookies. They're called Tate's because her father was a potato farmer. And they used to call him Tate. Okay, that's 1 layer done. Next, Mocha whipped cream. I'm probably going to do about 5 layers. So I'm going to do a layer of Mocha whipped cream right on top. And then I use an offset spatula and just smooth it out. And you want it to go right to the edge of the pan. Okay, so that's 1 layer. And now I'm going to put more cookies on top. Just want to make sure the cookies are all in 1 layer each time. You don't want them piled up on top of each other. Best part of this recipe is that there are always little bits of cookies left over, so the cook gets some. Okay, another layer of Mocha whipped cream. You can really use any kind of chocolate chip cookies, but you want something that's like really thin and crisp so it absorbs the liquid from the cream. And that way it kind of pulls together. It's kind of like tiramisu, you know, with the Italian lady fingers and the rum mascarpone, and it becomes something that you can actually cut. Okay, more cookies. My favorite expression, more cookies. You know what I always say? You can be miserable before you eat a cookie, and you can be miserable afterwards, but you can never be miserable while you're eating a cookie. Okay. More whipped cream. I'm just going to fill this whole thing up. Actually, sometimes I just bring the whole cake to the table and everybody help themselves. There's something so like childlike and decadent about it. I catered a big party once, and I put a whole cake on each table, and everybody served it family style. It was fun. Okay, more cookies. More whipped cream. When I'm doing a dinner party, I'm always looking for things that I can make ahead, so I don't have to cook everything the same day, and this is perfect for that. You can make it in the morning and leave it in the fridge, but even better, you can put it in the fridge overnight. Okay, 1 more layer of cookies, 1 more layer of cream. Oh, too bad. There are cookies left over. What are we going to do with them? Can't imagine. Fill in the little spaces. And then one final layer of Mocha whipped cream right on top. This is really, it's so great because you can really taste everything in it. The coffee, the chocolate, the Kahlua, the mascarpone. And just spread it all out. If you think you can't bake, this isn't really baking. So it's a perfect dessert for somebody who thinks they can't bake. You can't really mess it up. Actually, I did mess it up one time. I forgot to put the Kahlua in. I had to go out and buy more cookies and more cream and start all over again. But you can't mess it up. Okay, this is gonna go into the fridge now. It's gonna sit overnight. It's gonna be so good. But happily, I have one that's already done. Let me show you. This one's all set. It's been in there overnight. And wait till you see it when it comes out. So this is why I have a springform pan. I want to get it out from the sides with a small knife. Just run it around the edge of the pan. Okay, this looks like it's set beautifully. Mocha whipped cream and cookies. Now, how did I think of that? Oh, whoa. Try not to get your fingers in it first. Okay, there we go, loose. And just take the springform pan off the outside. This is why you could never get it out of the pan otherwise. Okay, just like that. And I usually kind of smooth the top because getting it out of the pan, you make a little bit of a mess. Isn't this just amazing? All the cookies and cream. I kind of smooth the outside a little bit just to give it a nice finish. And the edge. Okay, now cake plate. I like it very flat cake plate. Just shows the cake best. And just leave it on the base, otherwise you'll never get it off. Put it right on top. And then a little decoration. I always do some kind of chocolate. If you do hard chocolate, like dark chocolate, it's really hard to shave it in curls. But if you use milk chocolate, it's easier. So just like that. Just put curls of chocolate on the top so everybody knows it's chocolate. Like you wouldn't know it was chocolate. Just right on the top. It's always just nice to have a little decoration. If you only have bittersweet chocolate, you can put it in the microwave for about 15 seconds to soften it, and then you can make nice curls. How's that? Does that look good? Now, does that look like somebody's birthday cake? I'd say that's really special. So I'm going to show you when you cut a piece out of it, what it looks like. And I'm not doing this because I want to taste it. Or maybe I am. Oh, it's just so good. Okay, now I need a plate and a fork. I'm just gonna take this out. Oh, it's coming out. Look at that. How outrageous is that? I might have to try it. It's so good. The cookies and the mascarpone, you can really taste that little bit of Kahlua. This is so good. And that's a cake that could make grown men weep.
For dessert, I am making my Turkish coffee brownies that are rich and fudgy and have the perfect combination of chocolate, cardamom, and coffee. To get started, I'm toasting up some walnuts. These are looking great. They've been in my pan for a few minutes now and they've gotten lightly browned. And now I'll just coarsely chop them. Now I'll set these aside while I whip up my batter. In my big bowl here, I'll combine my dry ingredients. 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of sugar, and 1/3 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. And then I'll add 2 teaspoons of instant espresso powder, and then 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt and baking powder. I'm gonna add some cinnamon and cardamom to my brownies. And cardamom just adds a really nice floral woodsy element. Okay, I've got my dry ingredients. I'll whisk this to combine. Okay, my dry ingredients are combined, and now I'm gonna mix up my wet ingredients. I have 2 large eggs here, and I like starting with my eggs first in case there's any shell that gets in them. And then I have 1/2 cup of melted butter here that is cooled slightly. I don't want it to be too hot, otherwise it'll cook my eggs. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. This is such an easy batter. I'll add my wet ingredients to my dry ingredients and whisk to combine. Okay, and now I'll fold in my walnuts. You can use any nut in these. You could even just skip the nuts. All right, now I'll grab my pan. I've prepared my pan by greasing it and lining it with parchment paper. Greasing it first helps the parchment paper stick, and I also like allowing little wings to come up on the side so that I can use these parchment wings to lift the brownies up out of the pan after they've baked. So I'll just dump my batter right into my pan. This is an 8 by 8 inch. I'll spread out my batter. Okay, now these are gonna bake at 350 for about 25 minutes until the center is set. I'm gonna let these cool now while I make my chocolate coffee glaze. I'll start with a cup of powdered sugar, 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, a pinch of kosher salt, and then I'm also gonna add some cardamom to the glaze as well. Just a little bit goes a long way. And then I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of melted butter, a tablespoon of coffee, and it could be freshly brewed or cold. You've gotta have coffee in the glaze and the brownies. And a tablespoon of honey will make this glaze glossy. And then just a splash of vanilla, and I'll whisk this until it's smooth. Okay, this consistency is perfect. My brownies have cooled and they're ready for the glaze. This is such a nice, thick, glossy glaze. Got this away from me. Now I'll spread this all over the brownies. I think my swoops are looking good. They just need one more thing. I'm now going to bedazzle my brownies with rainbow chips. Once this glaze is set, I'll slice them into perfect squares.
This is the star of my first sweet recipe. It's a store-bought frozen pound cake, and it is going to make a layered tiramisu cake, super easy, much easier than the original tiramisu. So I'm starting by slicing the pound cake into 3 slices horizontally. This is such a great trick. Anytime you want to make a really luscious, flavorful, layered cake. These pound cakes have been around since the 70s, if I remember correctly, and they are so handy to have in your freezer. So that's the cake, and now I'm gonna make a coffee syrup, and it is very simple. I've just got some hot coffee, and it's pretty strong, and I'll just add some brown sugar while it's still hot, and then whisk this together, and it's gonna be wonderful. All right, so I'll put that aside. That's the coffee syrup. And of course, tiramisu has a very creamy component. And for that, I'm using cream cheese. I'm gonna add some sifted powdered sugar. I sifted it so there wouldn't be many lumps at all. And then you can add vanilla or my current favorite form of vanilla, paste. You get these little flecks of vanilla caviar throughout, and it is just incredible. To me, it seems to taste even better than vanilla extract. That might be like placebo effect, I don't know, but I'm convinced it's even better than the extract. All right, I'm gonna whip this for just about a minute until the cream cheese is really light and fluffy. Okay, that is looking great. So next comes the heavy cream. So I'll pour it in. With regular tiramisu, instead of cream cheese, it's usually mascarpone cheese. But I wanted to do a version where you can find everything at your local grocery store, and cream cheese is a really great substitute. All right, I'm gonna turn on the hand mixer and whip this until peaks start to form. All right, so all tiramisu has layers. So I'm gonna take the 3 layers of cake. I'll take one first. And what I did was I took the loaf pan that the cake was sold in, and then I draped some plastic wrap in over the sides, and the cake is going inside the plastic wrap. So put it cut side up, because I'm gonna grab this really yummy coffee syrup, and I'm gonna really carefully pour a third of it over the cake. And of course, you want that cake to really absorb all that incredible coffee flavor. That's what tiramisu is all about. So this beautiful cream cheese whipped cream mixture is in a big old piping bag. So I'm gonna pipe just a little zigzag layer. You don't have to get too fancy, especially since the 2 inside layers are gonna be covered up. I'm doing a speed round. And then I have some chocolate, and I'm gonna grate it onto the top of the cream mixture, just to give a nice little chocolate layer. Whoop. All right, that's good for that layer. So now I'm gonna do 2 more layers exactly like the first one. First cake, and I'll flatten it, sweetened coffee, the cream mixture, and a grating of chocolate. Then exactly the same again a final time, and it's done. The reason I put this overhang of plastic wrap in the pan is so that I can really lightly cover the tiramisu and it won't smush the top of that beautiful cream cheese topping / filling. All right, so this is gonna go in the fridge. You need to give it 4 hours at least to chill completely and let all the layers kind of become one with one another. And I happen to have a gorgeous second version so that I can show you how this is all served. But look at that, you just pull the plastic away and it's like nothing ever happened. So the second reason to have this overhang in the pan is so you can grip the sides, say a little prayer, and lift the whole cake out. There we go. So then I've got a pretty platter, depending on who you're serving it to. You don't have to put it on a platter, but it's always nice. So I'll just get the end and kind of pull the plastic wrap away as I set it on there. Goodness gracious, look at this layered tiramisu cake. That shortcut frozen pound cake is such a brilliant way to pull this cake together. So I want to show you how beautiful these layers are. Cut a nice slice. Oh gosh, that looks miraculous. It's gonna be tough to go back to the original. This is so much easier.
I'm gonna make a mocha mousse with just chocolate and coffee, and then I'm gonna make it frozen. So good. So first I'm gonna start with chocolate. I need 3 ounces of chocolate. That's bittersweet chocolate. Then I'm gonna add coffee liqueur, 3 tablespoons. It's gonna give it real depth of flavor. And this is all set over a pot of simmering water so the chocolate melts. 3 tablespoons of water. And this is the second coffee part, 2 teaspoons of instant espresso granules. I always use some coffee and chocolate because it really brings out the flavor, but in this case, I'm really doing a balance of the 2. This dessert makes a fabulous presentation too. Okay, this is done. So off the heat, I want it to cool a little bit. And now for the eggs and sugar. So the basis of any mousse is egg yolks. So I've got 6 egg yolks at room temperature, 3/4 cup of sugar. This is 1/2 and 1/4. And I'm just gonna beat them on high until they get kind of this consistency of mayonnaise. They get very light yellow and very thick. In the meantime, I need cocoa powder. So 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. I use really good Italian cocoa powder. What this does is really just intensify the chocolate flavor. Okay, I think the eggs are done. I'll show you. It gets really thick, really like mayonnaise, and what you want to see is that it comes back on itself in a ribbon, and it's done. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to add the cocoa powder on low speed. You don't want it all over the kitchen. Whoa! In a cloud of cocoa. Some vanilla, 1 teaspoon. And then the cooled chocolate mixture. So pour it in slowly. And this is the base for chocolate mousse. You want to be sure the chocolate's not too hot because otherwise you'll end up with chocolate scrambled eggs. Okay, I'm just going to scrape this. You want to be sure you get all the chocolate in it. It smells amazing. Chocolate and coffee. Okay, next the egg whites. I'm going to put this aside. clean bowl and a whisk this time. And I've got the 6 egg whites also at room temperature and a pinch of salt. And I'm gonna whisk these until they form really soft peaks. High speed. Just a few more steps to go. So when the egg whites are in soft peaks, they get folded really carefully into the chocolate mixture. Then the next thing to do is beat some heavy cream. So 2 cups of cold, heavy cream right into the same bowl. No need to clean it. It gets beaten until it forms soft peaks. Then fold the cream into the mixture, followed by 4 ounces of grated bittersweet chocolate. Nearly there. So the mousse just gets poured into a souffle dish, covered in plastic wrap and frozen for several hours or overnight. So now all I have to do is finish it off by piping whipped cream around the top. So for the whipped cream, I'm just gonna whip 1 cup of cold heavy cream, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. It gets whipped on medium and then on high speed until it forms stiff peaks. Don't over-whip it. Then it's spooned into a pastry bag fitted with a large star tip. Looks amazing. But just to make it even better, I've got a little bit of chocolate and I like to shave it right onto the top. Just makes it look fantastic. And I use a vegetable peeler. I find that's the best way to do it. I just soften this a little bit in a microwave. The more that you soften it, the longer the curls are. Don't mind if I do, actually. Have to make sure it's really good.